Devlin, Untamed. The platform.
Welcome to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Monday, December the 11th. The highlights of our show. We broadcast on the platform live, 1 till 4 every afternoon. Martin Devlin, Lachlan Moore. iOS, the show is called It's Only Sport, the only independent daily sports program in New Zealand where we celebrate sport. Over the weekend, so much going on. Lou Vincent is back. Andre Adams on the podcast, an ex-teammate and a good mate of his. He is all over that. The Black Caps squared the series with Bangladesh. A street parade? Oh, come on, you don't have to go that far. Tim Southey called it the worst pitch that he had ever played on, and he's played almost 100 tests. Shohei Ohtani, me the money. Shohei Ohtani signing the richest deal for any sports person in the United States playing a team sport, $700 million US over 10 years. Ron Barr, Sports Byline USA, talking us through that. And exactly, how do they recoup that money? The LA Dodgers who have bought him. We talk EPL with Tom Rennie. His useless West Ham getting dicked 5-0 by Fulham. My Man United again. Just what a lame, pathetic, limp-ass display that was against Bournemouth. I got plenty to say about that. Matt Gunn, he'll be positive out of Twizel, and why the hell not? His Liverpool is sitting top of the Premier League. He also went shopping in Timaru over the weekend, Matt, to buy a barbecue. Now, as a man, we all know how those trips end up, do we not? We got a big moment Monday all about John Rahm. Just saying, get the PGA. You know how I used to say that I hated live golf? Well, I got quite a few reasons. Count them as to why I have decided to join my blood brothers and sign for the Live Golf Tour. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, we need to find out what we learned from the weekend. Here we go. Tablets in hand, I say gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. What have we learned from the weekend? Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
What have we learned after the weekend of sport in no particular order? We've learned that Lou Vincent has been pardoned, partially pardoned. This is great news and about time too. Free now to participate in local cricket, club cricket. Lifetime ban rescinded after being convicted of match fixing. Yes, he did it. But yes, also, he is repentant. He has done his time. Lou Vincent is a good guy. He deserves this. The Premier League has a new table topper. Liverpool rule the roost. And Aston Villa are last year's Newcastle United. Very impressive back-to-back wins for Villa in the space of a few days. Man City and then Arsenal. Everton, despite the 10-point deduction, have kicked back into gear with 3 straight wins and 3 straight clean sheets. Man United, my mob, are absolutely woeful. The team to beat right now just happens to be our greatest rivals, and they sit top of the table, Liverpool. The Black Caps can play on wickedly turning subcontinent pitches. Well, Glenn Phillips can anyway. Man of the match performance from Phillips in just his 3rd ever test. That should cement him in the side for at least another 12 months. The worst pitch I've ever seen in 15 years and nigh on 100 tests, said Tim Southey. But Phillips showed you could still bat on it, provided that you showed patience and you attacked when the bad balls came. A drawn series with the Deshies, we'll take it. Our 7 side, I'm talking rugby here, aren't as good as they once were. Second event in a row now on the World Series circuit where both our teams failed to win their events. The Stuff headline was about how one of the Black Ferns had propelled their team to another medal. Do you really honestly think our Olympic champions are celebrating finishing 3rd in a World Series circuit event? What does it all mean? Well, it means nothing if you don't go on and win the Olympic gold. And that's all it's about these days, next year in Paris. The Breakers won't make the playoffs. The chance of them now making up the season at a 4-9 record are on a par, I suppose, with my Man United making top 4 of the Premier League. It's a possibility. Of course, it's a mathematical possibility, but it's not a probability. The Breakers are second to last. They have got a huge injury list. Playoff hopes diminishing every day. The Breakers right now, at the halfway point of the season, look broken. Finally, Show me the money. Shohei Ohtani signed the richest deal in sports history for a single individual, $700 million US. That's about $1 billion New Zealand dollars, and that's about $250 million US more than the previous biggest deal, which went to Patrick Mahomes, the two-time Super Bowl winning Kansas City Chiefs quarterback. And just when you think that money does not talk in sport, of course it does. It always has. Money is everything. Cash is king. The more, the better. Money owns sport. Have a huge pile of cash you can get, i.e. buy, whoever you want, whatever you want. Just ask John Rahm. This time last year, he hated live golf. He was so anti-live golf and everything about it. He was all about legacy, winning majors, etching his name into the golf history books permanently. Now he's about 1 million miles away from that. Well, 600 US million to be exact.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The platform.
Sports news headlines.
Not too sure where to start. This is
Start with sport.
All right. You don't need to be mean. Jeez. Well, there's a lot of things going around. I don't know what to start with. I'm going to start with the Premier League just because I probably care about that the most at the moment, thanks to my team, who are top of the table.
They are.
2-1, Liverpool beat Crystal Palace over the weekend. Martin, what were you doing on Sunday morning?
Swearing, cursing, cussing, kicking, couch.
You didn't kick the dog, did you?
No. Poor old puppy had to sit there and endure, though, and I don't think Puppy likes my team anymore.
I was going to say, just like your sons, you're going to force your dog to support Manchester United.
He's going to have a bandana for Christmas is what he's going to be wearing. And every other dog at Puppy's school will be laughing at him, won't they?
With their Man City and their Newcastle and their Liverpool bandanas.
You little
PSG.
doodle thing. You sport man, you loser.
Yes, a weekend to forget for Manchester United. But this morning in the Premier League at least, Man City coming from 1-0 down to beat Luton 2-1. Fulham thumping West Ham 5-0. Tottenham beating Newcastle 4-1. They're back to winning ways. Everton beating Chelsea 2-0. Everton have won 4 of the last 5. And they're actually out of the relegation zone, despite their 10-point deficit. Their 10 points taken off, should I say, from that, financial fair play rule breaking, whatnot. So Everton sitting 17th. They actually would be, if they didn't get that 10-point deduction, they'd be sitting in 10th right now. Liverpool on top of the table, 37 points, 1 point ahead of Arsenal. They lost to Villa over the weekend. Villa are third, so there's actually only 2 points between first and third. Man City are in fourth on 33, 4 points off the top of the table. Tottenham in fifth on 30. Man United in sixth on 27. The Wellington Phoenix women have put a challenging week, you could say, behind them to salvage a much-needed 2-2 draw in their Women's A-League match-up against Melbourne. Victory in Porirua. Paul Cole, the Kiwi, has rounded out his return to his homeland, capturing his first New Zealand Open squash title on the same afternoon that his fiancée, Nellie Gillis, prevailed in the women's final in Tauranga. Kiwi Lydia Ko has finished 2023 on a high note, conquering the inaugural Grant Thornton Invitational alongside Australian golfer Jason Day in Naples, Florida this morning. New Zealand have bounced back to claim a dramatic last-ditch victory in the final of Sail GP Dubai this morning. The team chose to split the course at Gate 2 during the podium race against Australia and Canada, leaving all 3 boats together at the final marker. Despite crossing the finish line in first place, a last-minute penalty for failing to give way to the other 2 boats who had the inside lane denied Canada victory. New Zealand and Australia crossed the finish line almost side by side, and after a wait for the umpires to work out who had actually won, who had come second and whatnot, it was deemed New Zealand had made the finish just a couple of metres ahead of the Australians. The All Blacks and Blackfeet Sevens have come up short of their respective title bids at the Cape Town League of the Sevens World Series overnight. The All Blacks, or the men's Sevens, I don't like calling them the All Black Sevens, the men's Sevens are finishing 5th, the women finishing 3rd. But News Hub will tell you the women got bronze to add to their silver in the last event, suggesting that it's actually really good to finish 2nd and 3rd when you're the Blackfern Sevens team.
Well, remember, I don't know who the captain was, it Sarah? Yeah, at the Commonwealth Games when they crashed out and they had to play the bronze medal thing. And she actually said, we don't want to play it. I mean, who wants to play it? What a loser thing. And then, of course, New Zealand rugby, Big Brother got on her back and A day later, she came out with a press statement. We're always proud to play for New Zealand. We'll be playing our hearts to win that bronze medal is really... They came third.
Yeah.
That's called losing.
This is a team that, for a very long time, was winning every single tournament they played in.
That's it.
Yeah.
Nothing to celebrate coming third in a 7-series circuit event, unless, of course, you're Kenya or the United States, and it doesn't happen that often.
Yeah. Remember there was a period of about 2 or 3 years where Kenya were really good at sevens?
There was a period where our men were really good.
Yeah, there was, actually. Here's an interesting story. Play was abandoned in the Big Bash matchup in Geelong last night due to a dangerous pitch. Fox Cricket reporting that water had got into the pitch overnight following heavy prolonged rain in Geelong on Saturday. And after exhaustive work from the ground staff, the game was able to start between the Melbourne Renegades and Perth Scorchers. But the ball started to show signs of dangerous, quote, tennis ball bounce, with play suspended after 6.5 overs when Scorchers batsman Josh Inglis faced an over where the ball shot up dangerously during several deliveries. Interesting. And just finally, Zoe Sadowski-Synnott has continued her dominance in women's snowboarding, claiming victory at the FIS Snowboard Big Air World Cup in Edmonton in Canada. Good stuff, Zoe. That's what's making news, Martin.
Devlin.
Oh, my goodness me!
The platform.
Lou Vincent is back. He is allowed to go along and watch domestic cricket in New Zealand. He's allowed to go and coach at a club if he wants to. He is allowed to be back involved in the game. This is great news because he copped, 9, 10, 11 lifetime bans or something like that. He's a good guy. He's done his time. Andre Adams played with Lou right throughout his Black Caps career. He joins us to talk about it. Now, you played alongside Lou for New Zealand. You know, careers mirrored each other. You're in the team at the same time. This is fantastic news. About time, yeah?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's sort of disproportionate to the crime, I think. I think it was 11 life bans. Kind of feels a bit like ECB, were either a little bit embarrassed or a bit petulant with their decision, but they made a mark in the sand, and Lou had to wear it. So it's nice to see that he's able to be back involved at some level.
Yeah, they say that they've revised the penalties so he can participate and be involved in cricket matches at or below domestic level. So still no involvement in international cricket, and not that he's probably ever going to be or wanted to be. Is this more symbolic, though, than anything else, just to take the weight off his shoulders?
Yeah, cricket's been a part of Lou's life forever. I can remember I was lucky enough to play cricket with him, not play cricket with him, but watch him play. And he played in my brother's under-14 team. And I just remember, he was exceptional then. He loved the game, and to have to be removed from, I guess, a fraternity, and you just can't be a part of it for so long. That's quite. I mean, it's nearly 10 years, isn't it? It's pretty much 10 years. It was 2014, so I mean that's a long time to be removed out of a game that you were part of it. And look, I get it. Absolutely, he committed a crime, and but he's done his time, and so it's nice that he's able to affect people at club level, because I actually feel like Louis still really has heaps to offer there. He's so infectious. You've been around him. Once he gets back involved with kids, mate, like he made people around him love the game, especially the kids. He was the greatest at that. So he's obviously still very famous. Everyone knows who he is. If you look up videos on him, you can still see the way he played, the way he fielded. And his test debut was something that we should all remember.
Yeah, talk us through that. That was in Perth. We got 4 centuries that day, but to score a ton against Australia on your test debut, stuff all people can actually be part of that club.
Against that lineup as well. That was. I guess that was New Zealand's sort of coming of age in terms of, that. When we actually sort of felt like we could really start to compete, that team especially sort of, I feel like, laid the foundation for bigger things, and obviously the latest generation has gone on to do amazing things, to be World Test champions, but that effort of Louis, Adam, Nathan, and was it Flem?
It was. Yeah.
100 there. Yeah. That effort in Perth against Warne and Gillespie and Binger, Lee. Look, I that's a really. I actually go back and watch it every now and then because it's just such an amazing feat. But I think even just the way Lou played, Brett Lee bowling high heat with lots of bounce, and Glenn McGrath just sniping away the whole time. Shane Warne at the peak of his powers, and then he was dismissed. Was he dismissed in the second innings on 50 and didn't hit it? I think it was the second innings that he didn't hit it, but. Just the confidence he played with, the guy on debut, the confidence he fielded with, he sort of broke the shackles of just being a bland cricket, the black caps, not so much bland cricket, but there was, obviously we had Nashi and we had Cairnsey and that, but for this young kid to come in and to just instantly be a hit, that really was sort of like a signal that there's more to New Zealand cricket than just you have to earn your stripes and go through it to be good.
2014, he got the lifetime ban, and as a result of his own actions, and he admitted all of that, he got caught and so forth. He wasn't the only one doing it at the time, though. Let's be honest about that. And there's a hell of a lot of people who got away with doing what he did.
I think he's also not the only one. He's not the last either. It's just the way the world works. Money talks. People get into difficult situations, and match fixing is an interesting scenario. For some people, it's about the money. For others, it's about being needed, about being important, and sort of some people can be low, feel like they've been left out, and they just want that opportunity, kind of in a state where they don't care about much. And when someone offers you that much money per game, it is very hard to turn down, and it's really easy to say, I wouldn't do it. But when you start adding up, the sums of money, let's say it's 15,000 US a game at the time. That's 30k New Zealand at the time per game. You play 10 games. Actually we played 20 games at the ICL. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, right.
So, and kind of. Look, I just think I'm not justifying it by any chance. But all I'm saying is that people are really quick to say I wouldn't do it, but they also don't have that opportunity. So it's just a situation where money talks. Lots of people are going to get caught in the future, and I hope that Lou's case really sets the sort of standard with, I came clean, I've done my time, I'm actually repentant, I'm genuinely sorry. I've rehabilitated and I've got something to offer. That really needs to be the way it gets done, but maybe not 10 years. I know that they want to be really hard on it, but they also have to be realistic. The life sentence doesn't stop people committing murder, and nor does a 10-year ban from the game doesn't stop people from taking the money.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Moan. I'm moaning sick all the time. It's Monday. I got a moan on, all right? I got a moan on. John Rahm. And another one bites the dust and takes the big Saudi check and sells his soul to sport washing and signs for the Live Golf Tour. And he's allowed to. Of course he is. It's his life. Who wouldn't take the 900 million New Zealand dollars that he's been given for doing nothing? Just remember that. Almost $1 billion for actually doing nothing, for just jumping from this tour to that tour. And now golf as a sport's going to drive down a highway us traditional, stale, pale male types never wanted it to go. The whole premise of it being a 4-round sport gets gone. Razzle, dazzle, disco music, baggy shorts, dancing girls, 3 rounds, no cuts, 2-hour tournaments all packaged around an Instagram TV reality show. Yeah, that's going to be golf. And us dinosaurs will whinge and moan and lament the days when the losers who couldn't cut it literally went home after 2 days, and these quaint old things called the majors will still be played. They'll be the only 4-day events left in time. For how long, we don't know, but definitely not forever, because the PGA, the US Open, the Brits, maybe not the Masters, but all of them will sell their souls too eventually. For what? I don't get why the Saudis needed or wanted to pay Rahm so much money. I thought they'd signed a deal to join the PGA anyway. First they took the UFC, then heavyweight boxing, then F1, then golf, cricket, tens, the Premier League, the FIFA World Cup, America's Cup. You name it, the boy with the biggest bank balance, he wins. He gets to have all the toys under his Christmas tree. But is sport any better off? Are any of those sports better to watch? Is buying golf and staging your own 5th major championship, dismantling what once was, does it all make it a better spectacle, more fun, exciting and dramatic to watch? John Rahm's deal marks the beginning of the end for what we all once knew. In 20 years' time, I'm sure that most fans will look back and wish they'd protested more, lament what we once had, and regret what we then lost.
Devlin,
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
the platform.
$700 million, the richest sports contract in the world for anyone playing a team sport. Shohei Ohtani is an absolute superstar in his home country of Japan. He bats, he pitches. Well, he won't next year because he's had elbow surgery, but he has been signed by the LA Dodgers, who are desperate to win another World Series. How do you recoup that money? Is he worth that money? Is anyone worth that money? Ron Barr, Sports Byline USA, to explain. The figure is extraordinary, isn't it?
Well, it's extraordinary in the sense that it's a large number. But I think if you look at it and think about it for just a second, at least I do, when you look at the fact that he's going to be paid $54,000 a game.
Right. Yeah.
That puts that into perspective. But if you also think about it, it's 10 years, it's $70 million a year. Then, you know, that's doable in professional sports in this country. I mean, it may be just one player, but it's still doable. And as I've pointed out before, that if you're paying him that much, think about what the owners are making. So it's just there's money out there to be paid, and there's people that are going to pay it because they want to win, no matter what the cost might be.
Does this mean they can win with him? And let's remember, he won't be actually pitching next year because he's undergone the surgery. He's just going to be batting.
Well, let me just say this, Martin. When the Giants were one of those supposedly in the run for him, I said that I wouldn't pay him that much because the Giants happen to need other players. So if you've already got shelling out $700 million, even though it's $70 million a year, you've still got to be able to. They need a third baseman. They need an outfielder. They need another pitcher. I don't see where. I know he's a valuable person by name and by talent. He's extraordinary. Nobody's been better, and to be able to be both a pitcher. But there is still a high question about whether the operation that he has is going to be able to allow him to come back and be a pitcher. So does that mean you pay $70 million for just a DH? Well, if he can't pitch or doesn't pitch to the degree that they need to have him, the answer is that's what they're paying for a DH. And he does bring other things to the party. First of all, being Asian, he certainly will appeal to that audience or fan part that are interested in baseball. The other thing is that he is just a great personality. I mean, he will probably bring in additional advertising for the Dodgers, not that they particularly need it, but, they're the top team in town down in Los Angeles, and that's a large area down there. So, I can see the value of it. Now, let me put it into perspective, Martin, for just a second. I was talking to Roy Eisenhart. He was part of the A's ownership, the Haas family, Levi Strauss. And I asked him, I said, put it into perspective. He said, well, really, it's only $500 million because as you go through the 10 years, the value of the dollar that you're paying him diminishes over that 10-year period. So I'm not trying to diminish the amount of money, whether it's $700 million or $500 million. It is still a lot of money. But I don't think one player, if you've got a lot of holes, and then there's not much you can do about if there's an injury factor on other people. Take a look at the Angels, who certainly had him, and they had Mike Trout, who arguably was, until Shohei came along, was probably the most talented ball player in Major League Baseball. But they didn't go to the playoffs. They didn't win any championships. So it is a team sport, and they're going to have to make sure that they have other parts of that team.
Ron, how do they recoup this money? How do they earn it? I know that obviously, and it's going to bring in that big fan base. He's one of the most popular athletes in Japan, and so you're going to have probably a good 10, maybe 20 million people that are going to be interested because of that. merchandise sales, obviously. I mean, there's going to be increased television audiences when he plays, all of that kind of stuff. Do they actually physically recoup the money, or is it more just an image thing that they're buying?
It's a combination, Martin. It's a good point. I might point out the way this is structured, this contract is structured. He is taking a lot of deferred money. And the reason for that is because of having to pay the extra money for, over the salary limit in Major League Baseball. And so, that's going to really help them because if they don't have to pay it down the road, I don't think they're worried because all the money that's going to be available in sports going forward, it's going to allow them to get players that they want to have, and they're not going to be penalized. Because I asked that question of Roy Eisenhart as well. I said, what about the penalty for paying that much money? Well, it's one thing to do it when you have to shell it all out at one time. It's something else when you have it deferred. So, as to answer your question more directly, they're going to get it by, and I remember this with Alex Rodriguez when he signed his contract with the Texas Rangers, and they all of a sudden were able to raise the broadcast rights locally. They were able to charge more top money for the tickets. They were able to get money in other areas. And when you think of it in terms of the $70 million, there is so much money that, one sponsorship could provide you with $70 million. And the money in Major League Baseball to be divided among the teams, that's going to go up as well. So I think it's certainly able to be recouped, but it's a good question on your part.
That's
The
right.
Tide 5.
5 separate sporting topics, so roughly a minute there or thereabouts on each. And when the bell conveniently, well, we move on to the next topic. John Rahm, what does it mean for golf, for the PGA Tour, for the majors, Lachlan? The IOC have come down hard and heavy on Russia and Belarus for next year's Olympics because of the statewide sponsored doping campaign coordinated by Vladimir Putin and his cronies, Lachlan. Are we applauding the IOC stance here? How about this for a headline from Stuff? Now, they've changed it. They have changed it because it was so embarrassing. Georgia Miller powers Black Ferns Sevens to another medal. That was after they finished third at a non-event series circuit in South Africa. Black Caps drew the test. We happy about that? Ohtani signs the biggest contract ever. Phoenix lose. Breakers lose. But the Black Caps won. Let's start there, Lachlan. Street parade for our men's cricketers after drawing that series against Bangladesh?
Of course.
Yes.
Well, you better watch out because you might fall over in a really uneven street parade, especially if it's in Bangladesh. A lot of cars turning the wrong way.
Tim Southey said it was the worst pitch ever.
Well, I'm sure.
He's been playing Test cricket for 15 years and 97 tests, so he's got a fair bit of experience. Does it make for a better or a worse spectacle?
Better.
I was enthralled, but I actually liked watching it. What it didn't have those dreary, boring 3-hour sessions in Test cricket where nothing happens. Every single ball, there was something going on. And I was watched for a period, I think it was on Friday or Saturday, I can't remember which, it was on the Siders, but where there was an appeal and it went upstairs to the DRS, every single ball. It was very dramatic. I was quite enjoying it. As long as it doesn't happen every single game like that.
Yeah, bit of variety. Because, if you're a batsman, you're just on the edge of your seat the whole time. You're nervous about the ball turning in all different directions and whether you can connect well enough. It was great. It was refreshing because, at least in New Zealand with tests, is they all sort of feel a bit more like a procession.
They meander along in the New Zealand tests. And look, watching these guys with a cricket bat in their hand bat like I would, like not having a clue what to do, where the ball was, where it was going, how to use their bat, what to do with their feet. It was humbling to me. It was like a golf course that's designed so that you've got to be absolutely precise on it. You know how they all the pros bitch about the USA, and the rough's too rough because they used to playing on a bloody fairway as wide as a runway.
And there's one famous course, I don't know, you'll know it better than me in the UK, that, might have been
Beth Page, is it that one?
I'm not sure. It might have been one actually in New York, which is not even in the same country, but there was a major at it not so long ago. And if you were one under par by the end of the whole tournament.
That's it.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
it's
great.
incredible. It's like the
That's
equivalent
great.
of being 20 under
That's what I
at
love about
Augusta.
the US Open. That's what I love about it the most. John Rahm, what does it mean for the PGA Tour? And why did Live Golf need to sign this guy? Graham Agars will join us tomorrow to explain this because he's got a better brain trying to hook into this. But I just don't get it. I thought that they were actually joining forces and that they were going to have a co-tour arrangement thing next year or something. No?
Yeah. Well, I'm
We all did, didn't we?
confused because I thought they were linking up and forming some sort of partnership.
Yeah.
And maybe I've missed something. So then why are Liv stealing the PGA guys?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't get. I mean, the guy's got so much bloody money. I mean, the Saudi prince. I mean, $600 million to him is like $6 to you and me. It's probably even actually less, to be perfectly honest. As we were speaking, he's probably just earned another $600 million pumping out the oil wells, hasn't he? But you're sitting there going, why did you do this? What is the point of this exactly?
He's just pulling the finger.
That's it. He's just doing it because he can. He's saying,
Yeah.
He's saying, you guys reckon that your top three players wouldn't go. Well, tell you what, guess what? I can take them whenever I want them.
Well, that's it.
See that girlfriend you got over there?
It's the
See how
same
pretty she
reason
is?
why.
See how beautiful she is? See the ring on her finger says she's married to you? I tell you what, in half an hour she's going to be married to me. That's what he's doing, isn't it?
Well, kind of, yeah. It's proving in a sense that the worth of money and how much you can entice people. But it's the same as what the Saudis or what Qatar have done with other sports. It's turning up, waving your money around, and proving that everyone and everything has a price.
That's it.
But what they want to gain they don't care about sport. I really don't think.
I don't
it's
think
like,
they
it's
do
like the
either.
Man City owner. He's been to 2 games in
Yeah.
10 years.
They're just sticking the finger up to the Western world
Yeah.
saying, whatever you think is precious,
Yeah.
it's ours whenever we want it.
Exactly.
Whenever we want it. Ohtani signs the biggest ever sports contract, $700 million US. We'll talk about this with Ron Barr in a minute. Mahomes, $450 million. See, I thought the NFL
That was over 10 years, by the way.
Yeah, well, Ohtani's is 10 years.
Yeah.
But that's $250 million more. It's $250 million more than Patrick Mahomes gets. And he's not even going to pitch next year because he's had Tommy John surgery. So what are you going to do, bat?
Yeah. Well, he's a pretty good batter.
He's not bad.
Hits homers. Hits dingers. Look,
Can they recoup this money or don't they care about that?
well, you recoup the money from a marketing and a sales perspective, right? So can they sell the jerseys? Well, yes, because there's an entire country
That's
of
it.
60 million or so
You
people
know.
in the name of Japan.
Who are the two most popular sports people in Japan? It's not Adi Savia or Dan Carter or Bowden Barrett.
No.
It's Shohei Ohtani. And who was the bloke that won the Masters?
Hideki
Those two.
Matsuyama. Yeah,
Those two
Matsuyama.
are the biggest super sporting stars in Japan, followed by a whole lot of footballers. Somewhere down here, somewhere over in this dark corner over here, there's somebody that's interested in rugby.
Barely.
Barely.
But I don't know. Like, as a fan of, I'm not a diehard fan the way I am with the NFL or NBA, but I'm a fan of baseball. And he's left my team to go to what I guess is sort of not really our arch rivals. I mean, there are crosstown
Everyone
rivals.
hates the Dodgers like they hate the
But I
Yankees,
just don't
mate.
care.
They like
The-
Man
you
City
look-
and Barcelona.
You look at the Dodgers and all the players they've had over the last 10 to 15 years.
They
and
bought every decent player there
They
is.
have. And they got one World Series in the COVID year to show for it. So they're not going to, I mean, and
Oh, you're sneering at the COVID year. You don't when your Lakers are mentioned, do you? You don't when Liverpool are mentioned, but you sneer at it because they...
I'm not sneering at it.
I just heard the sneer in your voice. You just sneered, didn't you?
I didn't sneer.
You sneered it. Did he sneer it at people? 5050.
It wasn't a sneer. It was just saying it was in the COVID year. Some people, not me, but some people might not view it as legitimate. That's all I'm saying.
So, Lachlan, is the world flat? Where does the sun rise? If you're
East.
in DC, where does it rise?
East.
If you're in England, like you know how in New Zealand, like
East.
we celebrate looking north, right? North is the sun, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if your house is north facing in Auckland, it's going to get sun, right?
Yes.
But if you're facing south, you get no bloody sun. So if we're in England and we're facing south, do we get sun?
Trick question. It can face anywhere it wants. You won't get sun because it's England and it's always cloudy.
Go on. But the answer to that question is actually yes. So in England, you want to face south?
Are you sure?
Yes, because good God, mate, this, I'm going to have to explain this. Phoenix lose, Breakers lose.
But think about it. Hold it.
What was more of a surprise?
Now you've got me confused. You can't move on to another question just like... Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
If you're facing south in England, that's what you should, because that's where the sun is coming from. It's coming from the other direction, okay? East and west don't matter. It's just... See, geography class. This is the great thing about being the teacher. You can throw these things out there. No Googling. All right? You don't know now, do you?
I'm so confused because I didn't think it mattered what pole you were in.
There you go.
What hemisphere you were in. I thought it was down to...
And the texts have come, and it was definitely a sneer, Lachlan. It was
not a sneer.
It was definitely a sneer. Phoenix lose, Breakers lose. What loss surprised you more?
Probably the Phoenix because they were unbeaten. They hadn't lost a game yet.
Right. They got pumped at home too, 3-0.
I didn't. I actually didn't end up seeing either game. I would have watched the Phoenix, but I was tied up. I was out. But the Breakers, I've gone to a point where, which is a real shame. I don't want to be like this, but I just can't get behind them if they're
4-9.
They're just losing so much.
Are they going to make the playoffs?
No,
halfway through the season.
Not at 4-9. You play 14. You play 28 games, so the 14 game mark is half. So they're just behind the halfway.
Well, last year
mark.
they played 26 because 15 and 11 got you in. So anyway, they were thereabouts coming to halfway, aren't they? So,
but I just can't imagine getting out of that hole. One relies on you going on a run out of the blue, and other teams faltering. And I just can't see that happening enough. Then again, look, there's 10 teams. 6 get into the playoffs theoretically because they call it a play-in. So you can have a negative record and finish 6th because you're at the bottom half of the table. So they can still get in, but there's a lot of ifs, and they're just too far behind.
Final question then. When Stuff Writer headline, Georgia Miller powers the Black Ferns Sevens to another medal. Do you honestly think the Black Ferns Sevens, the New Zealand women's Sevens team who are Olympic champions, is celebrating coming third in the South African series circuit? No. I mean, this is it. You know, it gets to the stage, doesn't it, where you think about the mainstream media and the way that they cover women's sport. It is patronising and it is demeaning. You're talking about a world champion team who are world champion 15s and Olympic gold medal holders of the sevens. That's the standard they set. Do you honestly think these women are happy about coming third? They're not. They shun that. They won't even keep those stupid medals that they get given.
Yeah.
Why then as the media cannot you accept this and actually treat them like the athletes that they are? They should be disappointed, gutted that they're third. Coming third to them is coming nowhere because that's the standard they've set for themselves. Powers them to another medal.
Yeah, I got nothing to add. I thoroughly agree.
God.
It's condescending
pathetic.
for any team.
It is condescending.
And
is
I
what
think
it is,
I think when we've got a number of teams, especially in women's sport in New Zealand, that it feels as though they don't get criticised anywhere near as much as, say, a male version of their team would. When you see things like that, it just inflames that fire.
Premier League. The top 4 are now Liverpool, Arsenal, Aston Villa and Man City in that order. Aston Villa are doing what Newcastle did last year. Really impressive last couple of wins from them. Clean sheets against Man City and Arsenal. Liverpool have snuck up on the outside, top of the table. Is this how it's going to end after 38 games? Has anyone else got a chance of cracking that top 4? And what about your useless lot, Tom Rennie, getting dicked 5-0 by Fulham? Not to mention my Man United, who should have been beaten by more at home to Bournemouth. I want to claim before you even claim it that my shower of shite is more shite than your shite, okay?
I think it's absolutely fair for you to claim that.
Thank you, Tom.
We've been in midweek, so this means nothing to me.
5-0 to Fulham. Come on, for God's sake, mate. I thought losing 3-0 at home to Bournemouth was bad enough.
Do you know what? They couldn't give a shit. They've won 5 of the last 6. It was one of this is what's going to happen to mid-table teams, which you are currently in the process of finding out.
That's exactly right. Let's start with my miserable mob then before we actually talk about teams that can actually play the sport that we supposedly love so much. This is United side that Ten Hag has said is not consistent enough to be good enough, or not good enough to be consistent enough. How long does this man have still in the job, and will he last the season?
It's an interesting question because I think that when you step away from the top 4 now in the Premier League, being the 3 that we think will be in the title race, Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester City, plus Aston Villa with how good they have been at the start of the season, when you drop below that group, there's about 8 or 9 teams that can all easily beat each other. And I think we've seen that in the last couple of weeks with Nottingham Forest beat Aston Villa, but then they got beaten by Fulham. West Ham were able to beat Tottenham Hotspur, but then they lost to Fulham. It just, it's kind of how the Premier League is at this moment in time. There is 3 or 4 really woeful teams. There are 3 or 4 really brilliant teams. And then there are 10 to 12 teams who are good on their day and bad when they're not on their day. And Man United have had some good days recently. The performances might have not been amazing, but it's not nothing to go to Fulham and win. It's not nothing to pick up the victory at Everton they did a couple of weeks ago by 3-0. And the Bournemouth game, it just showed you that a team on their day can beat a team with massive deficiencies. And we, you and I, when we've had these conversations, we have stopped talking about Manchester United as a top 4 team, a title-winning team, because currently that is not where they are. How they get there is a really interesting conversation, considering how much money they have spent. People think they should be there, but they are not. And I think that's the fascinating part of it. I think Erik ten Hag stays for the entirety of this season, and I think there'll be a big regrouping. But if you look at Man United, they're still in a position where there is so much dead wood to sell. What on earth is Anthony Martial doing playing Premier League football for Manchester United? It doesn't make sense. And Martin, that's been going on for so long. It just needs to come to a head. And even like the Maguire thing in the summer, Maguire is a good player. He's done all right in recent weeks. He isn't Rio Ferdinand, and they want to sign the next Rio Ferdinand. Fine. Then sell Maguire. Forget about whether the fact he wants to go or not. You sell them. You sell Lindelof. You sell, these bunch of players that you don't want. They aren't moving players on. They aren't bringing players in up the standard. And if you're in the mid-table in the Premier League, welcome to it, Man United fans. Sometimes it's amazing. You pick up a win you don't expect. And other times you get walloped. And right now, Bournemouth are in a really, really good moment. If this game was 6 weeks ago, I think you'd have won it 1-0. Right now, 3-0 loss.
Tom Rennie, talkSPORT. Let's talk about teams that are on the up and up. And this Aston Villa side, back-to-back wins in the past few days over Man City and Arsenal. Back-to-back clean sheets, 15 in a row at Villa Park. Emery, who replaced Steven Gerrard, and everyone thought Gerrard was a great manager because, he won the Premier League in Scotland without losing a game when he had to play Inverness, Partick Thistle and Queen of the South. He goes to Villa, he gets shown up, Emery comes along. I don't know what he's done with that squad, but when you look at it on paper, this is the great thing about football, Tom, when you look at that squad on paper, it doesn't have that many superstars or that many players that you think other clubs will go, I'm going to pay, over the rate for that guy. But 15 wins in a row at home, and as I said, 2 clean sheets against that lot. Are they last year's Newcastle, by that I mean the surprise package, or are they even better than that Aston Villa?
No, I think that's quite a nice comparison, actually, with last year's Newcastle, because there aren't a bunch of superstars. I think you're absolutely right to point that out. There are some very, very good players. And, what's interesting about Aston Villa right now is, firstly, the Steven Gerrard angle. I think this will bury him as a manager in European football, quite rightly. He did not take the Villa job seriously enough. He wasn't particularly intelligent in terms of his football. His attitude stunk, and he was the manager of Aston Villa playing charity games for Liverpool. He don't want to be a serious manager, and that shows right now without him out in Saudi Arabia. In terms of Unai Emery, he is a manager who has excelled during his career at that second tier, nibbling at the top tier. When he was at Arsenal, I think he took over at a very tough time, but he didn't quite hit the ground running there and never really found his feet. I think at Paris Saint-Germain it was the same, but at Sevilla and at times for Villarreal and certainly for Aston Villa, he's found that upwardly mobile, everyone believe in me ethos to be really good. He is a better manager than Villa, and I think the Villa players have responded to that. This is what Everton tried to do with Carlo Ancelotti a couple of years ago, but it didn't quite work out, though it's worth noting they were in the top 4 in the January of his first season. So for a while it did, then it fell away. But what they do is just they play football really well. And as basic as that sounds, the amount of teams you watch and our listeners will watch where players don't put the effort in, players don't do their job, players don't cover their mate, players don't make the secondary run, players don't mark the person they've been told in training to mark, players don't do this and this and this and this. And they do it. And you look at that goal they scored against Arsenal on Saturday, it was vintage of what Aston Villa are doing right now. They win the ball. There are 2 runners. There's positive play. Tielemans finds the man overlapping on the right-hand side, Bailey. Bailey finds John McGinn, who's coming from the left-hand side. Watkins has made a decoy run to make the space. McGinn backs his ginormous arse into the player behind him, spins and finds the top corner. It's perfection. It is absolute perfection. They would have worked on that for hours and hours and hours and hours, and the guys did their jobs, and that's why they won, and that's why they're so good.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. LBP with TMG. Let's be positive. Matt Gunn out of Twizel. Top temperature in the country today, Matt. That's one thing to be positive about. As well as that, the Black Caps deserve a street parade after squaring that series with Bangladesh. We'll talk EPL. We'll talk about Lou Vincent. And also barbecues. Going shopping with her, buying a barbecue. Man heaven. Guess what? The newspaper gave you a box of chocolates today, mate.
Oh, yes, fantastic. We have an editorial meeting on a Monday morning, talk about what we're going to do for the week, and then an impromptu morning tea where they deliver a huge big box of roses. Well, it wasn't a box. It's one of those reusable tins. A tin full of chocolate for a fat 50-year-old diabetic. I thought, it's a little bit insensitive, isn't it? It's like giving a bottle of wine to a recovering alcoholic. But anyway, it was lovely, Martin. And yes, the festive season is among us. And we've both been out shopping this week. Yeah,
look, you and Timaroo, which I'm dying to hear about, especially on a Sunday. Myself, barbecue arrived courtesy of the Airpoints store, which is even better because you kind of feel like you haven't spent any money, even though you've obviously spent money to get those Airpoints. And then putting it together without swearing, Matt. I did actually neck a few ciders during it, and I had somebody else doing instructions. I found that the key is if she does instructions and then you just do what she says, so then there is no blame to be allocated because all you're doing is doing what you're actually being told to do.
Yeah, I find this the best way to go about it every time. We talked about the kit set kitchen.
That's right.
That I had to put together.
Right.
Well,
you stormed out after, half an hour, though, didn't you, in the first attempt?
Well, I normally storm out at some point during one of these assemblies, but the barbecue is still in the box.
Right.
Weighed about 60 kilos, this thing.
Good God.
So I think this might take a while to get this together. I'm going to have to put a day aside.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think this could be a full day barbecue. But, yeah, I mean, it was a Bunnings job, Marty. I got the coffee. I walked around. I found one that actually had shelving. It had a sink attached. I sent you a photo.
Yeah.
But it just looked a bit big.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, look, there's also a sink in the house. And so, I mean, let's not get carried away with it. I mean, these guys that end up setting up a full kitchen outside with the pizza oven and everything, come on, son. I mean, can't you just walk through that door where there is a kitchen anyway?
Yeah, I know. We'll be literally having it out the sliding doors, the barbecue anyway.
Right, so there you go.
But, yeah, so we stayed away from the sink. But the variety out there is bamboozling, Martin, and I suppose in many ways, getting one from your Airpoints where you don't have to worry too much about it, there's not a massive selection, is the easiest way to go.
Let's be positive, mate, though, about sport, shall we? And us, that's the Black Caps, smacking up those bangers on the worst pitch I've ever played on, said Tim Southey. Take that, you Bangladeshi pitch doctorers.
I don't think people realise just how big this victory was for the Black Caps. This is against the Bangers.
That's right.
Who were superb in Test 1, weren't they? I mean, look, they're capable of anything, and to get that victory, I just think we need to put it in perspective. Given Test 1, this was World Cup status, really, almost, nearly.
I think so.
Quite close.
Yeah, I think so. But I honestly thought when we were 55 for 5 in the first inning, I thought it was over. I mean, look, we've drawn a series with Bangladesh. We're celebrating like we deserve a street parade, don't we? Glenn Phillips, the most unlikely hero ever in a test match. It was only his third test. He bowls him out with the ball, and he's actually the only guy that actually decides, hey, look, if that ball's there to be hit, I'm going to hit it. Out of 22 players on the pitch, he does what you're meant to do, dispatch the bad ball, and all of a sudden we win a test match.
And I forgot about the 5 for 55. I remember I texted you at that point when I tuned in and saw that. I thought, the Bangers are on fire again, and here we go. And then, of course, we weren't expecting that the celebrations and the parade would be needed, would we?
No.
What a brilliant summer just a brilliant summer of cricket so far.
Lou Vincent, congratulations to him. Deserves to be back. Henry Nicholls is going to be our favourite cricketer over the summer, is he not? Can you and me start the Henry Nicholls Fan Appreciation Society? I just think that when everyone else is on the guy's back, let's be the two guys that are standing there applauding him and going, H, that 6 runs was brilliant, mate. H, good too. Nice pair you got there, pal. 8 not out. Happy with that, Henry.
Called Henry.
Yeah, there you go.
Henry just sounds like everybody's mate. I'm happy to back him. If you need me to get the socials organised for that, we'll do Insta.
Yep.
We'll go. Well, that's the gram. Sorry, we'll go on the gram.
Yeah, we'll go the ticket.
Get on the gram.
Get TikTok.
And I don't know. We've got to go to TikTok because Facebook now. I just don't think we'll get the support we need.
Okay. All right, big money to finish with. Shohei Ohtani, $700 million US. John Rahm must just be spitting at that. Bloody hell, Live Golf, you tight-ass bunch of... You know, I only got $600 million.
He only got 600. Tiger could have had $1 billion. Isn't it just phenomenal that at the end of the day, they all decide it's the way to go?
That's it, mate. It has to be, doesn't it?
You know, when you've chosen your side, it's definitely wrong. And then when you change sides because the money's too big. And look, how could anybody look at anybody and tell them they wouldn't take that much to make the change?
I mean, that's the whole thing. You know, as much as I hate it and as much as I hate what it's going to do to golf and what it's going to do to every sport, because believe me, in 20 years' time, the leagues we love will no longer be the leagues we love. It'll all be 20-second Instagram reality TV show, load of pony. But at $600 million, mate, I mean, I don't care who's yelling at me, Matt, telling me what an arsehole I am for taking that money. I'll probably actually live with it. Oh, my conscience will probably be okay.
You could afford the time alone and the earplugs to block that out, couldn't you, Martin, with your 600 mil? You know, get a pair of those headphones that you can't hear anything through and just continue on about your day. I mean, I quite like the guy, actually, what I've seen over the years and seen little bits on TV. At $600 million. I mean, you just sit back and you think to yourself, nothing worries me anymore.
Nothing worries me.
I can go with
That's it.
No. How could it? How could it? You'd be coming into Christmas, Martin, and I would have had, if I'd have been in Live Golf, I would have had that barbecue with the sink if I'd have had the 600 mil.
That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.